Hi, meet Bill. More about Bill in a second. You will see me recreate this using no mechanical fasteners. Back to Bill. I took a contract to bury the body of Blasphemous Bill McKie. Whenever, wherever, or whatsoever the manner of death he die. Whether he die in the light of day or under the peak-faced moon, in cabin or dance hall, camp or dive, muckluck or patent shoon, on velvet tundra or virgin peak, by glacier drift or draw, in muskeg hollow or canyon gloom, by avalanche, fang, or claw, by battle, murder, or sudden wealth, by pestilence, hooch, or lead. I swore on the book I would follow and look, till I found my tombless dead. For Bill was a dainty kind of cuss, and his mind was mighty sot on a dinky patch with flowers and grass in a civilized boneyard lot. And where he died or how he died didn't matter a damn, long as he had a grave with frills and a tombstone epigram. Well, I promised him, and he paid the price in good Chichaco coin, the same which I blowed in that very night down at the Tenderloin. And I painted a 3-foot slab of pine, here lies poor Bill McKie. I hung it up on my cabin wall, and I waited for Bill to die. Years passed away, and at last one day came a squaw with a story strange of a long deserted line of traps way back at the Bighorn Range, of a little camp by the Great Divide and a white man stiff and still, lying there by his lonesome self, so I figured it must be Bill. I thought of the contract I made with him, and I took down from the shelf that swell black box with the silver plate he'd picked out for himself. I filled it up with grub and hooch and slung it on my sleigh, harnessed up a team of dogs, and I was off at the dawn of day. Do you know what it's like in the Yukon wild when it's 69 below, and the ice worms wriggle their purple heads through the crust of the pale blue snow? When the pine trees crack like little guns in the silence of the wood, and the icicles hang down like tusks under the parka hood. When the stovepipe smoke breaks sudden off, and the sky is weirdly lit, and the careless feel of a bit of steel burns like a red-hot spit. When the mercury is a frozen ball and the frost fiend stalks to kill. Well, it was just like that the day that I set out to look for Bill. And oh, the awful hush that seemed to crush me down on every hand as I blundered blind with a trail to find through that blank and bitter land. Half dazed, half crazed in the Yukon wild, with its grim, heartbreaking woes, and the ruthless strife for a grip on life that only the sourdough knows. North by the compass, north I pressed, river and peak and plain, past like a dream I slept to lose, and waked to dream again. River and plain and mighty peak, and who could stand unawed? As their summits blazed, you could stand undazed at the foot of the throne of God. North, I north, through a land accursed, shunned by the scouring brutes, till all I heard was my own harsh word and the whine of the Malamutes. Till I came at last to a cabin squat built in the side of a hill. I burst through the door, and there on the floor, frozen to death, lay Bill. Ice, white ice like a winding sheet, sheathed each smoke-grimed wall. Ice on the stovepipe, ice on the bed, ice gleaming over all. Sparkling ice in a dead man's chest, glittering ice in his hair, ice in his fingers, ice in his heart, ice in his glassy stare. Hard as a log and trussed like a frog, with his arms and legs outspread. I gazed at the coffin I'd brought for him, and I gazed at the gruesome dead. At last I spoke. Bill liked his jokes, but still, gall darn his eyes, a man that ought to consider his mates in the way he goes and dies. Have you ever sat in a frozen hut in the shadow of the pole, with a little coffin, 6x3, and a grief you can't control? Have you ever sat by a frozen corpse that looks at you with a grin, seems to say, you may try all day, but you'll never jam me in? I'm not a man of the quitting kind, but I never felt so blue as I sat there gazing at that stiff and studying what I do. And then I rose and kicked off the husky dogs that were nosing roundabout. I lit a roaring fire in the stove, and I started to thaw Bill out. Well, I thawed and thawed for 13 days, but it didn't do no good. His arms and legs stuck out like pegs, as if they was made of wood. At last I said it ain't no use. He's froze too hard to thaw. He's obstinate and he won't lie straight. So I guess I've got to saw. Well, I sawed off poor Bill's arms and legs, and I laid him stiff and straight in that dinky box he picked himself with the little silver plate. And I came nigh near to shedding a tear as I nailed him safely down, stowed him away in my Yukon sleigh, and I started back to town. I buried him there as the contract was, in a narrow grave and deep. And there's he's waiting the great cleanup when the judgment sluice heads sweep. And as I sit and smoke my pipe in the light of the midnight sun, I sometimes wonder if they was the awful things I done. And as I sit in the parson talks expounding on the law, I often think of poor old Bill and how hard he was to saw. Well, there it is. Thank you for your time. What do you think of this audio and visual juxtaposition? Is it too weird? Too strange? You want to hear another one? Let me know in the comments. If you'd like to know when the next adventure starts, you know what to do. Here's a video you might like. Good day, mates.